Do you know that? The trap of overthinking. The reason you can't become rich. In today's modern society, many people harbor dreams of various enrichment plans, but why can only a few realize those dreams? Psychologist Barry Schwartz proposed the theory of choice, explaining that having too many choices can lead to paralysis in action. When faced with too many options, people often fall into the trap of overthinking, worrying about making the wrong decision, leading to delayed action and complete abandonment. Economist Common also discovered in his research that overthinking increases the complexity of decisions and reduces the ability to act. Writer Vương Đỉnh Quân once told a story about a tofu seller. Because he didn't earn much money, he often thought about changing careers. Every day, this tofu seller had to wake up early and start working. In the small old shop, he both made tofu and served the constant stream of customers. Every time night fell, he sat tired in the dimly lit kitchen, thinking about various plans. He once thought about selling the tofu shop, then buying a donkey to transport salt, and gradually expanding into a larger transport team. But when he thought about the difficulties he might encounter, he abandoned the idea. This internal struggle repeated itself every day. In the end, he continued to sell tofu, and his life remained unchanged. Every night, he made plans for the future, such as selling the tofu shop, buying a donkey to transport salt, and from there, making money and expanding the transport team. But then he thought, what if raising donkeys is unsuccessful? What if the transport business doesn't go smoothly? Every night he tossed and turned, but the next morning he sold tofu as usual. His whole life he continued to sell tofu, living in a dead end with no way out. A businessman once said, "Always looking to the future without taking action is a hard-to-break habit of most poor people." No matter how perfect a plan is, if it is not acted upon, it will be useless. No matter how beautiful a dream of getting rich is, if it is not realized, it is just an illusion. The reason why a person does not become rich lies in thinking too much, but acting too little. There is a story about two brothers who both recognized the potential in the footwear industry and decided to each open their own shoe factory. The older brother did what he said he would do, immediately hiring craftsmen and workers, buying machinery and materials, and in less than half a month, he had launched his products onto the market. He personally supervised every detail in the production line. The older brother ensured that every pair of shoes met market demands in terms of standards and quality, while the younger brother constantly sought information about the market, consulted with industry experts, and worried that he would not be able to compete with other competitors. He even created a detailed list of risks, but this repetitive thinking ultimately caused him to miss a good opportunity to test the market. The younger brother always worried about there being too many shoe factories on the market, wondering how to compete with others, and if he failed, what he would use to make up for the losses. He kept hesitating, thinking constantly, while his older brother's business grew more and more. In the end, the younger brother remained stuck in place, unable to change anything. Before we delve deeper, don't forget to follow the channel for more truths about money and to help you quickly achieve financial freedom. Awaken Akasha greets you all. Eminent economists all say that what truly prevents you from achieving wealth is not intelligence or ability, but overthinking. Research in behavioral economics shows that action bias is an important factor influencing human decisions. People often overestimate the risks of action and underestimate the risks of inaction. The sunk cost effect in psychology also explains why people easily fall into a state of overthinking. The reason being that the time and effort already invested make it difficult for them to give up, leading to a state of constant hesitation. Research data also shows that successful people often focus on execution ability rather than a perfect plan. In reality, there are many such people. Clearly, there are many opportunities right in front of them, but they keep looking back and forth, burdened with thoughts, worrying about how others see them, fearing failure, and being afraid of risks. The result is only like, at night, they think of 1,000 roads, but in the morning, they still walk the same old road. No matter how many plans are made, if they are not turned into concrete actions, they are just zero. A writer once spoke about something he regretted most in his life. It was when he was 24 years old, when he was still a reporter attending an industry conference. There, a man came up to him and asked if he wanted to be the secretary to the general manager of a famous company. He thought for a long time, wondering if his height was up to standard, his foreign language skills were limited, his personality was unsuitable, and his major was also incorrect. The more he thought, the more he doubted himself. The man looked puzzled, wondering why he was thinking so much. No opportunity will come knocking 3 or 4 times. The conversation with that man made him start to reflect on his career. The man explained in detail the company's development prospects and described the job of the general manager's secretary. However, in his head, he continued to worry about his height, foreign language skills, and whether his personality was suitable for the role of secretary. In the end, his hesitation caused him to miss the opportunity to improve himself. Many years later, when recalling that experience, he could not help but feel regret. The real barrier that prevented him from moving forward was the doubt in his heart. He did not go to that company and ultimately missed this important opportunity. Japanese writer Matsura Mitsutaro once said that poor people are often trapped in anxiety and suffer from the disease of overthinking. Overthinking not only wastes time and energy, but also weakens people's determination and will to act. The inner turmoil is the biggest enemy in work and life. When you fall into a state of hesitation and indecision, you can only let opportunities slip away and push wealth further out of reach. A business consultant once said that the gap between thought and result is action, and this gap creates the difference between the rich and the poor. The process of getting rich is essentially the process of eliminating unnecessary thoughts and turning ideas into reality. Writer Pham Hai Dao told about one of his experiences. When he was 30 years old, he worked in a small company with a low salary. To change his life, he decided to study abroad to improve himself. Since making the plan, his mind has always been filled with thoughts and worries. Is quitting his current job worthwhile? Before deciding to go abroad, he had hesitated a lot. He discussed the plan with friends and received different opinions. Some encouraged him to pursue his dream. Some advised him to live stably. He also discussed it with his family. His parents were worried about whether he could adapt to life abroad, and the family's economic situation also did not allow him to be away from home for long. But just one sentence from his teacher woke him up. Thinking 10,000 times is not as good as trying once. At least you won't regret it. This sentence became the motivation that helped him make up his mind. Is it too late to study abroad at 30? He asked himself, and then worried about his mother's health, whether it would be okay to be far away. Finally, he went to a teacher at the university, and the teacher repeated that sentence. Thinking 10,000 times is not as good as trying once. At least you won't regret it. Thanks to that, he made up his mind and started reviewing for the exam immediately. He successfully passed the GRE exam, was admitted to Columbia University, and received a master's degree in oral history. When he returned to Vietnam, he founded an office and published a series of works. He then became a best-selling author at that time. When recalling this experience, Pham Hai Dao said that what he is most grateful for is daring to take action at that time. The CEO of Logic Thinking once said, "Life always has things that make us awkward. If you are hesitating between doing and not doing, then don't overthink it, but act immediately." In the Bible, there is a symbolic story that, on the way to the Holy Land, a group of slaves were blocked by the Dead Sea. The sea was now red with floating corpses, and the sky was dark with clouds. Faced with that scene, everyone seemed unable to move forward. But when Moses reached the sea, the sky became clear, and the Dead Sea automatically parted into two sides, opening a wide path for everyone to pass through. Life is often like that. When you hesitate, you only see thorns. But when you walk, you will see the path of life become vast. On the road to getting rich, there will never be the most complete plan or the most perfect opportunity. Instead of imagining difficulties and staying put, prioritize action and take the initiative to walk. To overcome the problem of overthinking, create a specific action plan. For example, you can set a small goal for each day to progress step by step. Take steps by using time management tools such as the Pomodoro method. Focus on one task for 25 minutes. Take a 5-minute break, and then continue with the next task. Build a system of friends or colleagues with the same aspirations to monitor and encourage each other. This method not only improves the ability to act, but also increases the success rate. A road not traveled will not be reached. A thing not done will not be accomplished. Action is the key to opening the door to wealth. Only when you start doing it will the future you desire come to you. Fortune magazine once conducted a research survey of 500 leading businesses, analyzed their development process, and summarized the key factors leading to success. The conclusion shows that the success of a business will have a ratio. 5% comes from strategy, and 95% comes from execution. What is true for businesses is also true for individuals. Most of the legends in the world are just ordinary people. They just turned thoughts into actions. Wealth also favors those who do what they say and focus on action. When Henry Ford first entered the automobile industry, he noticed that most cars used steam engines. At that time, many people continued to improve steam engines. Ford, who was just a small employee at the time, thought, if cars can run on steam, can't they run on gasoline? When he shared his idea, many people shook their heads, thinking, is it realistic? What will the costs be? What if it fails? But Ford didn't think much about that. He immediately set a goal to change the driving force of automobiles. He learned mechanics at the factory and used his free time to research fuel engines. Through his efforts, he successfully built a fuel engine and created the first gasoline-powered car when he was only 29 years old. His decisive ability to act helped Ford make a breakthrough and become the king of cars in America. Steve Jobs once said, "Your time is limited. Don't waste it living someone else's life." This saying emphasizes the importance of action, not to be immersed in dreams and plans. Elon Musk also once said, no matter how great an idea is, billions of people around the world will also have thousands of people who come up with it. You can only stay ahead of them if you turn the idea into action immediately. Anything that remains only in thought will never have results. Turn "let me think about it some more" into "I will do it right away." Execute first and then perfect. Later, this is the foundation of wealth. Every minute of acting early is every minute closer to the life you dream of. Family is also a school, and the interaction between members also has a profound impact on each person's development. Research shows that a positive family environment can significantly improve children's ability to act and their self-confidence. Parents' actions and words have a silent influence on their children. Good communication and positive support will nurture children's spirit of daring to take risks and execute. For example, the whole family can plan together, determine the goals and tasks of each member, discuss progress regularly, encourage and support each other. Two MIT economics professors, Abhijit and Esther, went to survey 18 of the poorest areas. They discovered very interesting things, such as poor families who, even though they didn't have enough to eat, still bought TVs, and their houses were full of belongings. Communication between family members was often accompanied by arguments and harsh words. In the two professors' book, Poor Economics, they stated that poverty is not only a material condition, but also a mental and living condition. If a family is full of garbage, that family will never be able to become rich. The American magazine, The Atlantic, once published an article about consumption in society. As more and more goods become available, a phenomenon occurs. Low-income groups often spend money on unnecessary things such as handbags, clothes, and electronic products. Meanwhile, high-income groups spend on more valuable things such as sports, newspapers, and knowledge courses. The article concludes that in the material age, a person's wealth is not only due to their ability to earn money, but also due to how they spend it. For ordinary people, every saved penny is capital to create future opportunities. If you only know how to shop, your house will become more and more full of useless things, and you will gradually become poorer. There is a married couple I know. They are both ordinary salaried employees with just enough income. If they knew how to calculate, they could save a little money each month. But they never make a spending plan and have to use their credit cards every month. The husband saw his colleagues buy new cars and followed suit. Every time the wife went shopping, she brought home all sorts of large and small bags. When you enter their house, you will see the shoe cabinet full of dozens of pairs of shoes, and the shelves full of all kinds of handbags. I once gently advised them that they needed to know when to spend and when to save. Otherwise, it would be difficult to cope when encountering adversity. But they still did not listen and spent lavishly. At the end of the year, the husband was laid off by his company, plus his parents suffered complications from the flu, and the cost of medicine at that time made them miserable. During that time, the couple only knew how to lament and regret not having saved any money for difficult times. When we own material things, we are actually having our time, money, and energy occupied by them. Reducing spending to improve life is the most necessary skill for an ordinary person to overcome their financial limitations in this material society. In the book, Family on Fire, the main character, Caroline, constantly scolded her family for trivial matters. Her daughter messing up her room, her son forgetting his books at school, her husband always coming home late from work. One time, while preparing dinner, she asked everyone to help. Her husband and son were engrossed in playing games. Only her daughter came to help her set the table. Instead of praising her, she scolded her for only doing a little bit, making her daughter feel hurt and argue back. Her husband heard this and immediately defended his daughter. So Caroline shifted to blaming her husband. In the end, her daughter got angry and ran away from home, and her husband and son didn't want to talk to her either. A family that is not united will have difficulty being prosperous. To develop, you must first eliminate emotional garbage within the family. There is a very crowded fishbowl stall. Everyday buyers line up for tens of meters. When I went to observe, I realized that the members of this family all brought emotional value to each other. When they almost broke a bowl, the owner immediately took the blame, and the owner's wife interjected, blaming it on the wrong placement. Even the 70-year-old mother chimed in, accepting the blame for not being able to help. Thanks to this harmony, their business flourished. Often, a family is poor because of internal attrition. If the members are united with less criticism and more encouragement, the family will become more and more prosperous. Previously, I saw someone share that a poor family is like a garbage dump. This person recounted that his mother gossiped all day, bad-mouthing others, recounting trivial stories of neighbors to the point that he once thought that life was just like that. His father was always cursing, and he also became accustomed to using foul language. I remember a little girl named Mimi, whose family environment was completely opposite to that person's. On the way home, Mimi's father asked her in English about the Russia-Ukraine situation. Although this was a difficult question for adults, Mimi still thought for a moment, and then answered fluently, expressing sympathy for those suffering from the war. She said she was reading Romance of the Three Kingdoms and compared the current situation with the ancient story. The US and NATO are Cao Cao, Russia is Sun Quan, Ukraine is the disputed land of Jingzhou, and at the same time she gave reasonable analyses. People admired not only Mimi's English skills and knowledge, but also her father's vision and wisdom. While other families are busy wasting time on trivial matters, Mimi and her father discuss valuable issues. I strongly agree with the view that family is also a place to cultivate people. The members are all teachers and students of each other. If the family only produces information garbage, we will have no progress, no growth. There is a belief that a dirty house will make it difficult to accumulate wealth, and poverty will haunt those who are unlucky. If your family is full of physical garbage, emotional garbage, and information garbage, then, unfortunately, luck and fortune will leave you. A family that wants to advance must clean up these types of garbage. When I was young, I once learned a text called The Story of Two Shu Monks. The story tells of two monks living in the land of Shu, one poor and one rich. Both had the dream of going to the South Sea for pilgrimage, but their choices and actions were completely different and led to two different outcomes. The rich monk, due to concerns about the great storms at sea and the long distance, was always hesitant and never determined to set off. Day after day, he kept thinking about all kinds of difficulties and risks that could occur. Whether he would encounter storms, whether the journey would be long, how many supplies he would have to prepare to ensure safety. These worries prevented him from daring to take a step, only immersing himself in worries about the future and uncertainty. Meanwhile, the poor monk was completely different. He did not have many worries and anxieties. With only a water bottle and a stick, he was determined to set off on his pilgrimage. On his way, he encountered rain and wind and experienced hardships, but nothing could stop him. He believed that as long as he started acting, there would be a way to solve all difficulties. With unwavering faith and persistent will, the poor monk finally reached the South Sea successfully and returned safely. He not only fulfilled his pilgrimage wish, but also brought back many profound experiences and lessons. Meanwhile, the rich monk was still immersed in his thoughts and could not take a step out of his starting point. Although he had better material conditions than the poor monk, it was his excessive worry and hesitation that made him drift further and further away from his dream. The biggest difference between them lies not in external conditions, but in their internal will and ability to act. Everything in the world originates from thought and requires action. Those who only stand still and dream will forever be restrained by difficulties, while those who dare to walk will be the ones who truly change their destiny. This story reminds us that to achieve goals in life, having only dreams and plans is not enough, but action is needed. Less calculation, less hesitation, daring to challenge ourselves, and acting more, we can use our own hands to open the door to success. No matter how many difficulties we face, as long as we are courageous and determined to act, the road to success will widen under your feet. I hope that you and I will have less hesitation and more action, bravely take the first steps, and use practical actions to welcome a richer and more successful future. I wish everyone on the path of realizing their dreams to always move forward steadily and constantly dedicate themselves to challenges.